Ladies and gentlemen, friends and seekers of truth, there comes a time in every person's life when the noise of the world grows loud, too loud, when the opinions of others press down like a weight on our shoulders, when betrayal, criticism, rejection, and fear come knocking at the door of your soul, and maybe you're asking yourself tonight, will I ever be free? Will I ever be untouchable? Will I ever stand in peace while the storm rages around me? Yes, you can, but not through arrogance, not through isolation, not by shutting your heart down and growing cold. No, my friends, the secret to being untouchable is not found in pushing people away. It's found in letting something greater live within you. You see, the reason people get under our skin is because we let them in without discernment. We allow their words to define our worth. We let their rejection rewrite our identity. But I want to tell you tonight, you are not what they say you are. You are not your failures. You are not your past. You are not their opinion. You are who you were created to be. And when you stand in that truth, nothing and no one can shake you. But how do you get there? First, you've got to be anchored. Anchored in something higher than your emotions, higher than your reputation, higher than the shifting sands of this world. When you are anchored in truth, when your identity is rooted in love that cannot be lost, you become untouchable. Second, you must forgive. I know that's hard. Some of you are carrying wounds so deep, scars that no one can see. But listen, bitterness is a prison. Forgiveness is the key. Let it go, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. And when you release that burden, your heart becomes light. Your soul becomes free, and no insult can pierce you. Third, you must rise above. There are people who will misunderstand you, misuse you, speak evil of you. But what did the eagle do when the storm came? It didn't hide. It soared above it, and you too must rise, rise in grace, rise in strength, rise in quiet confidence. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to respond to every critic. When you walk in purpose, you don't have to prove yourself. Lastly, you must remember, peace does not come from the absence of trouble. Peace comes from the presence of truth. That still, unshakable power inside you that says, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and no voice of man can take away what God has given me. So tonight, I challenge you. Don't live another day chained to the opinions of others. Don't let your heart be ruled by the storms of life. Stand tall, stand free, be anchored, be forgiving, be fearless, because when you are, you become untouchable, and no one can bother you again. Thank you. Identity is the foundation of who you are. It is not built on what others think, say, or do. It is rooted in something far deeper, something eternal. The reason so many people are easily shaken, disturbed, and hurt by the world around them is because they have placed their identity in unstable things, in popularity, success, appearance, relationships, or the approval of others. When those things shift, they lose themselves, but real identity, the kind that makes you untouchable, cannot be shaken by public opinion, personal failure, or the shifting winds of life. You were created with purpose. That means your value was set before anyone else had an opinion about you. You were not an accident. You were not a mistake. No criticism can rewrite your worth. No rejection can erase your purpose. And no praise can increase your value, because it was already immeasurable from the start. When you begin to understand this, the noise of others starts to fade. Their insults don't cut as deep. Their silence doesn't echo so loud, because you know who you are, and more importantly, whose you are. People spend their whole lives trying to earn identity, through status, money, power, or validation. But identity isn't something you earn, it's something you accept. It's already yours. The truth is, when you anchor your identity in what never changes, you will not be swayed by what always does. The world can call you names, it can mock you, ignore you, forget you. But that doesn't move a soul that is firmly rooted. Many are living as strangers to themselves, wearing masks, playing roles to be accepted. But the danger in being someone you're not just to be liked is that you'll be loved for the mask, not the person, and the moment someone disapproves, your entire sense of self crumbles. But when your identity is secure, when it comes from a source that never fails, you walk with quiet strength. You speak without fear, you live without apology. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is power. It is one of the most misunderstood forces in the human heart. Many believe that to forgive is to let someone get away with what they did. They think it means excusing injustice or pretending like pain didn't happen. But true forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. It is a choice to release the burden of bitterness before it becomes poison in your soul. Holding on to resentment doesn't protect you. It chains you, and every time you replay the offense in your mind, you reopen the wound and allow it to define you. The human heart was not designed to carry hate. Hate corrodes the vessel it's stored in more than the object it's aimed at. And the enemy of peace is not always pain. It's unreleased pain. Forgiveness is not forgetting, and it doesn't mean what happened was right. It means you're choosing to stop letting it rule your emotions, your future, and your identity. When you forgive, you take back control. You say, "You may have hurt me, but you don't get to control me." Some of the people who hurt you will never say sorry. They may never acknowledge the pain they caused, but your healing doesn't have to wait for their apology. Forgiveness is a one-way door. It opens from the inside, and the moment you open it, the weight lifts. The anger fades, the heaviness breaks. You begin to feel what it's like to live untangled from the past. You can't change what people did, but you can change what it does to you. You don't need closure from them. You need freedom for you. That's the gift of forgiveness. It silences the inner torment. It ends the cycle of offense. It doesn't mean you have to stay close to those who wounded you. It means their power to keep wounding you is broken. Forgiveness is not forgetting what they did. It's remembering that what they did cannot define who you are. Confidence is not loud. It doesn't always shout or demand to be seen. Real confidence is quiet, steady, and rooted in something unshakable. It's not built on applause or approval, but on truth. The world teaches us that confidence comes from accomplishments, appearance, or recognition, but all of those things fade. When your confidence is tied to your performance or people's opinions, it will rise and fall with every compliment or criticism. But when your confidence is rooted in who you are, not what you do, you become steady, secure, and untouchable. Confidence is knowing you don't have to compete with anyone. It's walking into a room without needing to prove your worth. It's choosing to show up fully, even when others underestimate you. The confident person doesn't seek validation because they already know their value. They don't need to belittle others to feel big. They don't fear rejection because they've already accepted themselves. And that kind of self-assurance is magnetic, not because it tries to impress, but because it refuses to pretend. Confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite fear. It's choosing to speak when your voice shakes. It's standing firm when everything around you says back down. It's trusting that even if you stumble, your worth doesn't drop. You don't become less because of failure. You don't become more because of success. You remain the same, steady, strong enough. The reason most people lack confidence is not because they're incapable. It's because they compare. They measure themselves against someone else's highlight reel. But comparison is the thief of confidence. You are not called to live their life. You're called to live yours. And when you stop measuring your worth by their standards, you start to see the beauty in your own path. Confidence grows when you silence the inner critic and speak truth to yourself. When you stop asking for permission to be who you are. When you decide to show up every day not to impress, but to be real. Confidence is not a gift only given to a few. It's a muscle built by truth, and anyone willing to train it can walk in it. Truth is the foundation of freedom. It is the compass that keeps your heart steady in a world full of noise and confusion. Without truth, you are vulnerable to every passing opinion, every shifting emotion, and every lie that tries to redefine who you are. But when you stand in truth, you become unshakable. You stop being tossed around by circumstances because your anchor holds firm beneath the surface. Truth is not always comfortable, and it's not always popular, but it is always liberating. There's a reason truth often feels like a confrontation, because it challenges the lies we've accepted. Lies that say you're not enough. Lies that say you'll never change. Lies that say your past defines your future. But truth cuts through all of that. It doesn't flatter, but it frees. And once you've tasted the clarity that truth brings, you can never go back to living in deception. The world may celebrate illusion, but it is truth that brings peace. Not the truth that bends to opinion, but the truth that stands no matter who disagrees. Truth isn't just something you speak, it's something you live. It shows up in your choices, your values, your relationships. Living in truth means refusing to pretend, even when pretending would be easier. It means being honest about your pain, your growth, your purpose. It means not betraying yourself just to be accepted. The person who walks in truth doesn't need to perform or persuade. They live with clarity, and clarity is power. When you embrace truth, you stop fearing exposure. You stop running from your past. You stop hiding behind masks. There is strength in being real. Truth allows you to confront what's broken so you can be healed. It gives you courage to say no when compromise calls. It gives you peace when everything else feels uncertain. You can walk through chaos and not be shaken because your foundation is secure. Truth is not a weapon to use against others. It's a light to walk in. And those who walk in it cannot be deceived, cannot be manipulated, and cannot be destroyed from within. Purpose is what gives life direction. Without it, even the most comfortable life feels empty. You can have money, success, admiration, and still feel lost. Because deep inside every soul is the need to know, why am I here? Purpose is not just about doing great things. It's about doing the right things. It's not always flashy or public. Sometimes it's quiet, hidden, steady. But when you are aligned with your purpose, you live with clarity and conviction that no amount of noise can shake. People who lack purpose drift. They chase trends, they follow crowds, they live for approval. But those who walk in purpose stand firm. They don't need to be understood by everyone. They don't waste energy explaining themselves to those who were never meant to understand their assignment. Purpose simplifies your life. It helps you say no to distractions, no to drama, no to things that don't serve your calling. It becomes a filter through which you evaluate every opportunity, every relationship, every decision. Purpose doesn't always start big. Often it's born in quiet moments, in struggle, in pain. The things you've survived, the battles you've fought, the burdens you've carried. None of it is wasted. It's shaping you, refining you, preparing you. What broke you yesterday might be the very thing that empowers you to lead others tomorrow. Purpose takes the pieces of your life and makes them part of a larger story. You don't need to have all the answers to live with purpose. You just need to be willing to grow, to be stretched, to let go of comfort. Purpose demands focus, and focus requires faith. Faith that even when the path is unclear, the journey matters. That even when you're overlooked, you're not unseen. That even when progress feels slow, you're still moving forward. Purpose anchors you in meaning. It gives you the strength to endure what others run from. It gives you the courage to be different, to stand alone, to stay true. When you know your purpose, criticism doesn't derail you and praise doesn't distract you. You become driven not by the need to be liked, but by the need to be faithful. Strength is not always visible. It doesn't always look like power or sound like confidence. Real strength is often silent. It shows up in endurance, in patience, in the ability to keep going when everything in you wants to stop. It's the quiet decision to rise again after failure, to love again after betrayal, to believe again after disappointment. Strength is not the absence of struggle. It is the refusal to be broken by it. Some people think strength means never feeling fear or doubt, but strength doesn't deny emotion. It faces it. It doesn't pretend life is easy. It chooses to stand firm when life gets hard. The strongest people are not those who have never been hurt, but those who have been wounded deeply and still choose to heal. They carry pain, but don't let it define them. They carry memories, but don't let them dictate the future. Strength is not about never falling. It's about always getting back up. You don't find strength in comfort. You discover it in resistance. It's in the hard seasons, the sleepless nights, the moments no one sees. It's built in silence, when you choose to keep going without applause or recognition. Strength grows when you stop asking why me, and start saying watch me. When you stop wishing it was easier and start deciding to be better. When you stop blaming and start building. True strength doesn't crush others to feel powerful. It lifts others because it's secure. It doesn't dominate. It leads. It doesn't boast. It acts, and it's not born from pride, but from purpose. You become strong when you decide that pain will not have the final word, that failure will not write your story, that fear will not be your guide. Strength is not about being unbreakable. It's about being unshakable. You don't need a perfect past to be strong. You need resolve. You need vision. You need to know who you are and what you stand for. Because when you know that, you don't have to prove anything. You just keep showing up. Again and again, that is strength. Peace is not the absence of chaos. It is the presence of calm in the middle of it. It is not something you stumble upon by accident. It is something you build, moment by moment, thought by thought. Many people chase peace as if it were a destination. They think they'll have it once life settles down, once the money is enough, once the people around them stop causing problems. But real peace doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It shows up in the storm, not after it. It is an inside job, not an outside achievement. Peace begins with perspective. When you stop reacting to everything around you, when you choose to step back and breathe before speaking, before worrying, before spiraling, that is where peace lies. It's a discipline, not a mood. It's not passive, it's powerful. It takes strength to stay calm when everything around you is shaking. It takes maturity to choose silence over argument, stillness over noise, trust over control. Peace isn't about ignoring problems. It's about facing them without letting them consume you. People lose peace because they try to control what cannot be controlled. They try to manage outcomes, opinions, timelines. But peace comes when you let go, when you stop trying to manipulate everything and trust that you'll be okay, even if everything doesn't go as planned. When you place your focus not on what's missing, but on what's already present. Gratitude is a doorway to peace, because it shifts your eyes from anxiety to abundance. There will always be something trying to steal your peace. A harsh word, an unexpected setback, a lingering worry. But peace is a choice you make before those things arrive. You choose what voice you listen to. You choose what thoughts you feed. You choose whether to carry stress or release it. The more you practice peace, the more natural it becomes. Not because life gets easier, but because your spirit gets stronger. Peace is not just a feeling. It's a fortress. And once you build it inside you, the chaos outside loses its power to shake you. Anchored people don't drift. They don't get pulled in every direction by emotions, opinions, or unexpected turns in life. To be anchored means to be rooted in something deeper than the surface, a foundation that doesn't move when everything else does. Life is full of uncertainty. Storms come, winds change, and people walk away. But if your soul is anchored, you don't collapse every time something shakes around you. You remain steady, because what holds you is stronger than what's trying to pull you. Being anchored doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means the pain doesn't pull you under. It doesn't mean you don't cry or get tired. It means you know where your strength comes from, and you return to it again and again. When you're anchored, you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need everything to go your way. You've settled something deep inside yourself, something that gives you peace no matter what changes. People who are not anchored often seek validation, chase perfection, or run from discomfort. They look for grounding in things that are temporary, titles, achievements, relationships, praise. But when those things fail, and they always do at some point, they're left drifting. An anchored person, however, has learned to place their identity and hope in something eternal, something that cannot be shaken by the shifting tides of life. Being anchored allows you to stay calm in conflict, present in pressure, and faithful in trials. You're not easily distracted by the noise around you because your direction is set. Your worth isn't up for debate. Your future isn't controlled by fear. Anchoring your soul means choosing stillness in chaos, truth in confusion, and purpose over popularity. It's knowing that storms don't last forever, but what's planted deep within you does. When others panic, you remain patient. When others chase trends, you hold your course. When others change with the crowd, you stand with conviction. Not because you're stronger than them, but because you're anchored deeper, and in a world that changes by the minute, being anchored isn't just wise. It's essential. Freedom is more than just a word. It is the soul's deepest longing. Many people live their lives in invisible cages built by fear, doubt, and the opinions of others. They allow circumstances, past mistakes, and pain to hold them captive. But freedom is a choice, and it begins inside. It is the moment you decide that your past will not dictate your future, that your mistakes will not define your worth, and that no one else's opinion will determine your value. Freedom is breaking chains, but those chains often begin in the mind and heart. True freedom comes when you refuse to be a prisoner of resentment or regret, when you stop carrying the weight of what could have been and start walking boldly into what can be. Many try to find freedom in escape-changing jobs, relationships, locations. But real freedom isn't about changing the scenery. It's about changing your heart. It's about removing the invisible walls inside that keep you trapped in fear, shame, or bitterness. Freedom is learning to say no to what drags you down, no to people who drain your joy, and no to habits that steal your peace. It's about creating space for truth to breathe in your life. When you live free, you don't live in reaction to others. You live with intention. You don't carry the burdens of yesterday. You walk with hope for tomorrow. Freedom means you control your story, not the circumstances or the voices that tell you otherwise. Some say freedom is reckless or selfish, but it's actually the most responsible thing you can do. When you free yourself from chains, you become a light for others still trapped. Freedom invites courage. It challenges you to step out, to risk, to grow. It doesn't promise a life without struggle, but it promises strength to endure. When you embrace freedom, you become untouchable, not because the world can't touch you, but because you've decided not to be held captive anymore. Resilience is the ability to bend without breaking. It's not about never facing hardship or pain, but about how you respond when those things come. Life will test you. It will push you to your limits and sometimes beyond. But resilience is what allows you to stand firm when the storms rage. It's the inner strength that refuses to let defeat have the final word. Resilient people don't avoid failure. They face it, learn from it, and keep moving forward. They know that setbacks are not the end, but part of the journey. Resilience is not something you are born with, it is something you develop. It grows in the moments when you choose to get up after you've fallen, to keep going when you're tired, to hope when everything seems hopeless. It's built in the quiet struggles no one sees, the nights of prayer, the days of determination, the small victories that add up. Every challenge you overcome adds a layer of strength to your character. Each time you refuse to give in, you become more resilient. Many people give up because they feel weak or overwhelmed. But resilience is not about being perfect or never feeling pain. It's about refusing to let pain define you. It's about knowing that your past mistakes don't determine your future, and that no matter how many times you fail, you can rise again. Resilience is rooted in belief, belief in yourself, belief in a purpose greater than the moment, belief that the best is still ahead. Being resilient means you don't allow fear to control your decisions. It means facing uncertainty with courage and choosing faith over doubt. It means embracing discomfort as a sign of growth, not a reason to quit. Resilience is a daily choice, a mindset that refuses to be defeated by circumstances. When you live resiliently, you become untouchable, not because life stops challenging you, but because you refuse to be shaken by those challenges.